welcome. This is I'm Mastora Deborah Bernard, and have with me today Mr. Paul Hamid Werder. We're with the University of Spiritual Healing and Sufism. Thank you for joining us this evening. Hamid is going to be talking to us about pursuing divine perfection in your work and daily life. And if you ever, if you ever hear yourself having that conversation about spiritual life, as if only you didn't have this work, and if only you didn't have this and that and the other, then you could lead this great spiritual life, right? And if you haven't ever said those words out loud, I bet you felt it, or maybe even thought it. I think so. I think this is an extremely valuable topic, and I'm excited to hear what Hamid has to say about it today, because Hamid is, I'll just let you know, he and I went to school together. We started in Energy Mastery Seminars back in 1998 together, and been going through the university program. And I think year after year after year, we have like 2 classes that start every year. And, we have a fall class and a spring class that starts every year. And to this day, most people will tell you when you go through this program together, it is so rich and so deep that you come out feeling like family. Bonds are formed that are beyond words, really. And I will say that for people that were in my class, even, back in 98 to 2000, I honestly feel like they are still family, even the ones I haven't seen for a long time. And I've had the great fortune to stay in contact with Hamid, and he's, in addition to being my brother in just the bond that was formed through going to school together, he does some amazing work. And not only for the university, he does teach at the university in the spiritual ministry program. He's also president of Lionheart Consulting, and he's a very successful consultant in organizational change and leadership for more than 25 years. He's an author, he's a speaker, he's a teacher, and he's really got a passion and mission to bring the spiritual principles and spiritual healing skills into traditional business and into leadership throughout our world, which is it's quite a worthy goal and a worthy mission, one that we really do need in our country. And boy, at a time when we're going through the elections and the what do they call those things, debates that we're going through right now, and oh boy, it's very evident. Let's just say it's like flashing neon signs that yes, this work is very much needed. So Hamid, thank you for the work that you're doing, and I'll let you bring to this group what it is that you have to bring.
Okay. Thank you very much, Master. I appreciate your introduction a whole lot. First, I'm going to give a little bit of an outline for what we're going to do tonight so people can kind of get settled and expect where we're going. I'm going to give you a couple minutes about who I am. I'm going to give you a few minutes about Sufism, because not everybody on the call may have a background in Sufism, just a very brief overview in my own experience. And then talk a little bit about what is divine perfection. That's a big topic, and what the heck are we talking about? And then I'm going to do a little exercise to ask you to reflect for a few minutes on a series of questions, but ultimately I'm hoping to help you find or clarify what you're longing for. We're all seekers. Anybody who's on a call like this is looking for, a better experience of themselves or their work or their home life or their family life or something. And so it's helpful to have something real to, kind of apply these teachings to. And that's what my specialty is. I'm a practical application teacher. When I hear fabulous teachings, as I did starting in '98, I wanted to know, what can I do with them? How do I make my life better with these teachings that are so beautiful? And so I've got a very specific practice that I'm excited about right now that I'm going to share with you, and hopefully it'll be something that you can experiment with on your own after the call, and it'll actually, I trust, make a positive contribution to your journey if you do. Then we'll have a general question and answers. I'll actually ask for a volunteer to kind of work out with this practice, work out the practice after I explain it. And then I'll also take general questions about the practice or about anything we've covered tonight. So that's a lot of agenda. Let's get into it. Who am I? First of all, I have to share that I've got a head cold tonight. Not what I had in mind for today, but it happened. It started coming in last night, and you can hear maybe in my voice a little plugged up nose. So maybe that's a good thing, though, because when I speak about something I'm excited about, my wife always says, "Why are you yelling into the phone at those people?" And it's not that I'm yelling; I'm excited. So I'm a little, maybe a little more laid back tonight. So I hope it actually works for everybody. And a little correction on some of the things that Master said. The bio on the website's a little bit old. I've actually been doing consulting for 33 years. Almost 33 years, and I do teach in year 1, 2, and 3, as well as the spiritual ministry year 4. So how did I get into this? Well, 18 years ago, I had a business partner who, for 2 years, she kept telling me, she was a woman and a partner that came to our company, and after a few years, she said, "Paul, I don't think you respect me." And I always said, "Yes, I do. Of course, I respect you." And it went back and forth like that for about 2 years, and then she finally left. She went away, and I thought, gosh, I'm the leadership team building guy, and my team is, kind of falling apart because another gentleman was leaving at the same time for his own reasons. So I decided I would, I believed in coaching. I'm a coach. I wanted to, see what was going on inside of me that might have a negative impact on my colleagues. I had great results with my clients, but colleagues, not so well. So I went to this 4-day workshop called Working Relationships on the morning of the last day, and it was a small group. There was only 6 of us, I think, in the whole group, and plus the teacher. And on the morning of the 4th day, one of the women participants walked over to me and said, "Paul, I don't think you respect me." And I went, holy cow, what am I doing to put out the same thing to somebody in 4 days that, I couldn't hear from colleagues in 2 years? So long story short, I decided I needed to do some more inner work. The teacher of that class said, "Yeah, you've got some unresolved stuff going on inside of you that is probably coming out, and that's what they're getting." So I found a spiritual healer who happened to be doing her homework for the school that Master and I started in '98, and she helped me open my heart like never before. It was a phenomenal experience that I started to have this cathartic experience of letting go of baggage, as we call it, letting go of old memories that were harsh and hard and hard for me to even look at, let alone let go of. And she had me doing this practice called remembrance, of opening my heart through a word or a short phrase that connects me to the divine. And it was so powerful. I told my wife went to see this healer. The healer looked at my wife, said, "You need to go to the school." My wife decided to do it. The 2 of them ganged up on me, and then a year later I went to the school and met Master and a bunch of other amazing people. So it was, and it was so amazing. It was like the teachings that I had heard about and listened to as a kid growing up were actually coming, I was actually able to experience something in a way that I'd never experienced it. In my upbringing, I understood it. People talked about it, but no one was helping us actually find divine love inside of us or experience inner peace, regardless of whatever the turmoil was in your outer world. So I had such a great experience that I really couldn't stop attending, and I, basically asked if I could continue my journey as a teaching assistant for a year, and then I was put on faculty to help bring the practical application into the university. Because what we don't want is we don't want to have people come to the university and feel holy and amazing, for the time they're there, and then go back into the world and not be able to maintain that experience. And so that's what I'm about, practical application. So that's about me. And what's Sufism? So I'm going to give you, again, 2 or 3 minutes on that. In The Music of the Soul, one of the cornerstone books written by our guide, Sidi Al-Jamal, he refers to it as the science of divine light. The science of divine light. And what I take that to mean is that the prayers that we're using actually carry divine light in the sound vibration, and that light that we are calling to when we use a practice like remembrance, it actually washes away our negativity that we sometimes carry in our hearts. And we all have a version of negativity in the form of anxiety, frustration, judgments, One of my favorites has been subtle arrogance that I'm not willing to really own up to readily until it kind of clobbers me with a 2x4. But those are the things that we all struggle with as human beings, on this planet. And the science of divine light says, and Sufism says, you know what? You don't have to carry that, stuff if you turn your heart back to God and ask for that help through the remembrance or through a variety of other prayers that we teach at the university. And so it was a very empowering, and I recognized how our world is driven by ego, and there's healthy egos and unhealthy egos. But even a healthy ego, it has a limitation, and the journey back to the heart, is one of the most difficult as well as most empowering journeys that I have ever run across, and so that's what Sufism is to me. Another way that it's referred to is the path of unity, and the path of unity honors all the prophets and messengers, including Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, and peace and blessings be upon them all, because they all brought the same message: one God, unconditional love, peace within our hearts that's gained through surrender to the divine. So if you look deeply into all the teachings of all of our messengers and prophets throughout history, it's one message. It's about love. And when I could experience what I had been taught and heard about in my upbringing, but not experienced, then I was sold. I was like, this is the real deal. And so, that's why I'm hooked. That's why I get excited on these calls and the opportunity to share with others. And for me, most importantly, Sufism in our university is really an invitation. It's an invitation that, regardless of your tradition or your belief system, that we can all discover the beautiful qualities that we all carry in our hearts. And those beautiful qualities that when they are like almost, they're in there, but they sometimes are asleep or we're unconnected to them. Those qualities are numerous. Things like mercy, compassion, strength, wisdom, patience, humility, forgiveness, and many, many, many more. And if those are already like buried treasures in our hearts, and we have the capacity and the ability to illuminate them, beautify ourselves through this journey of the Sufi practices, then that's what I believe is the recipe for a better world. I don't think we're going to get a better world through politics or through even education or through anything really business. I think business leaders can make a difference, and that's why I try to teach business leaders about their hearts and leadership from the heart as opposed to their egos. That's what I do in life, but the real deal is turning our hearts back to God and asking for God to guide our lives and open up our capacity for all the beautiful qualities that we carry inside. And again, like I said, sometimes they're dormant or asleep. So, what's divine perfection? That's the kind of the topic of the night. Pursuing divine perfection in work and daily life. I think of life as a 24/7 workshop. I don't want to have a workshop every quarter, every year. I don't want to just be when I'm in a room with a bunch of students and a teacher. That's my workshop. I want my life to be a workshop. And so divine perfection, that's a huge, huge, huge idea or topic, and it's beyond our comprehension. Bottom line, we don't know. We cannot know in our minds, even though our guide has written about this extensively, but we can experience it in our hearts. We can experience this divine perfection in our hearts. And I'm going to read a short section, a couple, 4 minutes or so, of what one of our students, a fourth-year ministry student, wrote when he was putting together his project to graduate from the fourth year. And his project was to write a beginner's guide for Sufism. And when I read this little set of paragraphs, I was so gratified that he was so clear, and I decided this is where I want to share it with the folks on this call tonight. So let me find that. Here it is. And I'm going to read it a little slowly so that you can actually receive the transmission of the message here, because I think it's powerful. It says, understanding God. When attempting to grapple with such a question as, what is God? It's far easier to begin with what is not a quality or aspect of God. From the Sufi perspective, God does not have arms, legs, a beard, or a staff. God does not live in the clouds. God is nothing like a human being in form or actions. In Sufism, the reality of God cannot be conceived of or imagined. God may be better described as a reality, an essence, or source that we cannot grasp with our minds, yet we can experience the qualities of God and can have a relationship with God. How do we relate to something we can't even imagine? It's not through the limitations of the analytical mind that we attempt to seek and relate to God. It is not with the physical eye, or the physical ear, or the physical hand that we connect with and thus relate to God. It is through the faculties of the heart that we see God everywhere, hear the sound of God everywhere, touch the manifested essence of God everywhere. Your heart is the portal that opens into the reality of God. CD, our guide, tells us to look with the eye of the heart and listen with the ear of the heart. This is why Sufism is a very heart-centered practice. The heart remembers what the mind cannot grasp. The heart has gnosis that is different than the intellectual mind. Allah says in His holy book, "Neither my heavens nor my earth can contain me, but the heart of my humble servants can contain me." And Sufis that have walked begin to experience a downpouring of these qualities of God, these qualities such as love and mercy and beauty, and they become so thick, they're thick like in the air, and one feels consumed and permeated by them. Some become temporarily intoxicated by this essence, and this is very visceral and a powerful sensation that comes and goes, continues to grow, and accompanies the Sufi as he or she travels through the different stations in the journey. Deeper towards the truth or source we call God or Allah. God is experienced by the heart, and no pictures or image can fully grasp or quantify that experience. This is the part I especially like. The phrase Allahu Akbar means God is greater, meaning greater than anything you can imagine, greater and vaster than any image you can create, greater than our capacity to comprehend. Whatever you can picture or think about God, God is greater and beyond the bounds of your picture or thought. So, when I suggest that we pursue the divine perfection, I'm suggesting we pursue something we can't know or understand from our minds, but it is an experience of life that has a remarkable impact on the quality of our life. Because if I'm full of love and I respond to a difficult situation from love, I get a very different outcome than if I'm in a difficult situation and I respond, from myself or my ego. If I have a reaction instead of a response. If I remember to be patient, I get a better outcome than if I'm impatient. If I remember to be compassionate, I get a better response in life than when I'm judgmental. And this is the inner struggle, the inner war that the word jihad that gets thrown around in politics and in the media as a holy war of killing people. It's not that at all. The real jihad inside, and the Prophet Muhammad, blessings and peace be upon him, said that the real jihad is the inner choice that we make of turning our hearts back to God and the patience and the mercy and the compassion, as opposed to the impatience and the judgmental nature, et cetera, that the humans can gravitate towards. So, last thing I'll say on this topic is we are all pursuing something we can experience but not really understand, and we have this longing for it. It's already in our hearts. The longing for love is there always, but we forget, and we remember, and we forget, and we remember, and we forget. Then at this point in my journey, I'm really striving for this unconditional love and peace that's bigger than whether I think my outer life is going through an easy or enjoyable time or a difficult and painful time. What I've noticed, no matter how far you journey this Sufi path, there are times of ease and there are times of difficulty. And I think my understanding at the moment, and it will evolve, I'm sure, of the divine perfection is being grateful and reliant on God through the times of ease and the times of difficulty, as if they're just one experience, as opposed to my life goes up, my life goes down. I'm happy, I'm not happy. I'm trying to find that love and peace no matter what's going on. And that's, easy to say and not easy to live up to. So let me see if there are any questions about what I've said so far, and then I'll take one or two if there are any, and then we'll do a little reflective practice to help us find what we're longing for.
Okay, so if you have a question, press *2 on your phone, or if you're on the webcast, just type it into the Q&A and I'll read it. If you're on the phone, press *2.
And we may have questions now, we may not.
Okay. And on the webcast, type it in, and I'm hitting refresh. Okay, I'm not seeing a question.
No questions. Okay, let's keep moving then.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to reflect and maybe write down a note if you have an insight that's meaningful to you about these questions. So first of all, I'm going to ask you to take a moment to breathe deeply in and even more deeply out, just a couple of times. Just feel your body, breathing in and breathing out. And a little more emphasis on the out breathing, just a couple times. And if you know the practice of remembrance, you might say the name of God quietly to yourself a few times. And if this practice isn't familiar to you, then just put your hand on your heart and quietly say, "My heart," to yourself. Just put your hand on your heart and just quietly say, "My heart," as if you want to connect to and open up the part of you that is the essence, the divine spark. Okay, so now ask yourself, what is it that you most long for right now in your life? Sitting here tonight, what is it that your heart's longing for more than anything? Might be better health. Might be a job that allows you to use all of your talents more completely. Might be harmony in your family. Might be more joy at work. But our hearts are longing, and what our hearts long for are the raw material for the practical application of these teachings. Okay, whatever you came up with is just fine. And I'm going to ask you to take another moment to go a little deeper and see if you can identify that intangible quality or experience that might be underneath what you're longing for. Like if you just want to get a job or just get better health or improve your marriage or your relationship with a child or a parent, what's the quality underneath that you're really longing for? Is it peace? Is it love? Is it trust? And then whatever it is, just take a note. Okay, so the next exercise, I'm going to walk you through this so that you understand it, and then I'm going to ask for a volunteer to demonstrate it. But it's a practical application exercise of how you can more proactively pursue your own experience of divine perfection in whatever way is meaningful to you. Because if there are 150 people on this call tonight, there are 150 different journeys that we're on. They're not all the same. And we're at different places in our journey. And so it's important that we start where we are and work with what our hearts are longing for. And as Master shared earlier on the call, there's a four-page paper that you have access to from registering that is going to give you some background research on and the thinking that goes into this 5 minutes per day practice that I'm going to share with you and offer you tonight. But I'm going to give you the brief explanation right here so we can actually do justice to the demonstration with the volunteer. And then we'll see how many questions we can generate out of that. So this practice came to me, again, I learned most of my lessons the hard way. One of the things that got me into the Sufi school, back in '98 was the difficulties with my business partners. How this practice came to me in the last several months is I had an anxiety affliction that was affecting my sleep and making noise in my ear when I was trying to sleep. And it was pretty troublesome. It was pretty serious. Not like life-threatening, but like this is going to change your life if you don't take care of it. And so, long story short, I decided to keep a sleep log because I didn't understand what it was going to take. The doctors had no real cure. It was just like calm down, relax, take it easy, all the easy things to say and hard things to do when you're living in this crazy world. So. So I started keeping this log. How many hours did I sleep last night, and what did I learn about my ability to sleep? In terms of what happened either during the night or during the prior day. And it was quite amazing how many insights I would gather over the course of months doing this. I would start to see the patterns that if I had a day where I was angry or judgmental, sleep was tougher than when I was more rested and at peace and more joyful. So things like that started to become themes and learnings that I was starting to say, okay, now I know what I can do to kind of move in the direction of what I'm looking for here, which is a healing for this thing. And then the second part of the story is one of my colleagues gave me a book not long ago, about 3 months ago, that's called Talent is Overrated. And the message in that book was that, people all have a variety of different types of talents. We all have our God-given talents, so to speak. He didn't use that language, but I will. But really, that's not what distinguishes the highest performers, whether it's athletics or music or the arts or business. What distinguishes the highest performers is practice. And it's the kind of practice that's a deliberate practice that starts with clarity of intention and observing ourselves while we're practicing and assessing how we did after our practice. And I thought that was fabulous information, and of course I said to myself, in sports you get to do warm-ups before the baseball game. In music you do get to rehearse before the concert, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in business and life, we get up and we hit the ground running, and it's like there is no time for practice. We're all too busy performing to practice. But then I realized, wait a minute. What if we consider Tuesday practice for Wednesday? What if we consider Wednesday practice for Thursday? What if we actually can learn how to practice while we're performing, while we're living our lives, while we're doing our jobs? And that was kind of a big aha, big light bulb went off. And so to make this work, another challenge in adult learning and in our own journeys is if I have 5 goals and I write them down and like New Year's resolutions, I got 5 or 15, whatever. If I don't keep them alive, they don't go anywhere. They don't work. They don't happen. And having 5 goals is which one am I going to work on now? I don't know. So probably I don't focus on anything, and I just keep doing my life. So the practice involves selecting one competency that is very important to you. Like for myself, my competency right now is complete wellness. And that complete wellness is because of my ear thing that is now, it's almost over, it's almost done, but I'm not quite finished with it. So I'm working on that. And then the second thing you do is once you have your competency, you identify, well, what's the specific focus of that right now that's important? Because wellness is a huge topic. I could be dealing with nutrition. I could be dealing with exercise. I could be dealing with my judgmental attitude. I could be dealing with anything that is interfering with or an opportunity for complete wellness. And I can only, and it's so if your competency, such as wellness, is like an elephant, it's like we have to eat that elephant one bite at a time. And we have to pick a specifically defined focus that will help us, kind of get our, make progress on it every day. So, for example, one of my clients has a competency that he's working on, turning negativity into positivity with his team. And when you look at that, you go, that's a big deal because there's a lot of negativity coming at him. And what he realizes when he would have people coming at him with complaints and negativity and upsets, he'd take it on, he'd swallow it, and he'd carry it around for them. And instead of doing that, he says, what I want to have is empathy without swallowing or owning their negativity. So big competency, turning negativity into positivity with his team, turns into a specifically defined focus of when they come at him, he wants to be empathetic but not take on their pain, so to speak. That's another example. So let's see. So how this practice works is once you clarify what you're working on, you begin your day by reminding yourself by just reading what your competency is. My competency is total wellness, and what I'm trying to work on is loving people all the time, no matter what, and not being judgmental. And I try to stay away from the words about not wanting to what I don't want. I want to turn it into the positive words of being more loving with everyone. And I just read that and I set my intention. Okay, I'm going to look for opportunities for that to happen today, so I can see if I can practice what I care about, what's meaningful to me, because this is going to affect the quality of my life. This is really important. I want to focus on it today. And then at the end of the day, what you do is you take 5 minutes and you stop and you find a quiet place and you reflect and you read your competency, you read your specifically defined focus again. You kind of review what you're working on. And then you give yourself an arbitrary 1 to 10. How did I do today on a 1 to 10? And then the next thing you do is the more important piece is you write down any learning, any insights, anything that came to you as a wow, that I didn't know that, or I saw how my pattern is. That's interesting. And then you do a little exercise with, okay, do I need to forgive myself? Do I need to let anything go? But the whole reflective practice of remembering what you were working on, reviewing your day, writing down your 1 to 10, writing down your 1 or 2 line note to yourself, it takes 5 minutes. And I trust that everybody can do that if it's important enough, 5 minutes a day. And what you'll find, if you do this for a while, I've had hundreds of people working on this for the last couple of months, what you'll find is what will happen is your intention, first of all, your awareness will grow. You'll start to become more aware of what it is that you care about and how it's happening or not happening in your life. You'll become more intentional. You'll start to look for those opportunities. You will start to see, here it's coming. Here's my chance to be loving or not. And it's a tough situation. Okay, I'm going to try it my best. And it's as opposed to just reacting, just being without, reflecting without being an observer of yourself. It's easy to go down, to do your automatic thing. But this helps you become more conscious, more aware, and more intentional. And then the last thing is probably the best benefit of this practice is you start to capture your learnings. And you might have a number of days where, not much of substance happened, but you wrote your note down. But every once in a while you'll have a day where this was really illuminating. This was really beneficial. I really learned something important here. This is I want to capture this jewel of insight. And as you do that over time, you're going to accelerate your walking, your growth, your connection to God, because if you're pursuing divine perfection and you're working on it every day, it's like instead of reading the book and saying, well, that's a great idea, I'd love to have experience of divine perfection, I'd love to be holy, and I'd love to have some unconditional love, I'd love to feel more peaceful inside. but I'm not doing anything about it on a daily basis. I read the books and I get excited, and then I go back to do business as usual. So what this practice offers, I think, is a chance to say, this is what I care about. This experience of my life, of my work, that I want more of, like a more passionate experience of joy at my work, or whatever your thing is, and then you give yourself this little 5-minute reflection every day. It's going to help you move closer and closer to that, which, in my view, leads us closer and closer to that experience of the divine that we spoke about for my fourth-year students' beginner's guide. It's not an idea. God is not an idea. It's an experience. It's visceral. And we want to feel that deeper gratitude and that deeper reliance, because we're expressing ourselves in ways that are more loving, more caring, more passionate, more patient, and less judgmental, and so on and so forth. So that's the short version of the practice that, inshallah, or God willing, will help you, see that there's maybe some possibility for yourself in doing this experiment. So I started this for my own healing practice, my own healing process. I share it with my Lionheart clients and the students at the university, and I believe it absolutely deepens and accelerates our journey to God and to what God is calling us to. Because God wants us to be happy. God wants us to be healthy. God wants us to be joyful and peaceful and loving. And our work is to kind of open our hearts to experience what it's going to take to have that manifest for us. So with that said, it's a good time for a volunteer that says, well, here's what's going on for me, and how do I apply what you're talking about to this particular scenario? And I will, in about 15, 20 minutes potentially, guide us to kind of identify the competency and the specifically defined focus that's going to be meaningful, and then you'll be off to try your experiment. And what I have noticed in other similar calls to this, if I work it out with one or maybe two people, then other people can get their own ideas and potentially, begin their own experiment.
Okay, so I want to say, if you're on the phone and you'd like to be a volunteer, press *2. And I have to ask you, Hamid, we have, let me just read this. We have a question coming in on the webcast. Let's see. Okay, let me go ahead and take this person that's on the phone. We have Sarah Ali, I think it is.
Sarah Ali?
I might have said that incorrectly. Did I pronounce? Sarah, you're unmuted. Did I
pronounce
your name correctly? Hi.
Hello? Hi.
Yes, can you hear us? We can hear you.
Yes, my name is Ali. My wife is Sarah, so we're both on the call together.
Okay, terrific.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to be our volunteer, or do you have a question? I was going to take questions in a bit, but if you have one instead of being a volunteer, that's okay too.
No, if it's okay, I'd like to be the volunteer.
Fantastic. So when we did the little exercise about what is your heart longing for, what did you come up with?
So the first part was affording a good life for my wife and family and children.
Okay.
And which we do not yet have children, but inshallah that's part of it's part of what's been holding me back. And the quality was around providing ease and protection.
Okay. Do you so is ease for you kind of like the opposite of a little bit of anxiety or uncertainty about finance and provision and so on?
Well, when you ask me, the ease that I was referring to was ease for the family.
Ease for the family.
But since you asked that, then yes, it's also ease for me in terms of that protection from anxiety. Are you going to
be the provider? Are you the primary provider for your family, as opposed to a double income family that is common in America these days?
So currently it's not. Currently
Okay.
it's more my wife,
Okay.
and I'm hoping for it to tilt more towards me.
Good. Okay.
We can make it double, but I at least at the base want to count on
Okay. That helps
providing
me
myself.
understand. That's helpful. Thanks for that. So since we're talking to you, what's the competency that would be most instrumental for you to pursue divine perfection in the form of ease of caring for your family? What's the competency that you need to strengthen? What's Allah asking you to become for this to manifest?
I'm hoping, inshallah, to open a practice soon, within the next couple months.
Okay.
And I'd like to do that competently.
Okay. What kind of practice?
It's an acupuncture
healing
practice.
Okay, so you have a degree in acupuncture and healing, and you're ready to put your business up and start your practice. Very good.
Well, yes. For 3 years now, I've been in that position where I've graduated and I've been practicing, but it's sort of like there's been something that's been holding me back, and now I feel more open to stepping out into that next.
Okay. Well, let me go at it. I'm getting better, and I'm getting closer and closer to being to understanding what exactly you're getting at, and then I want to keep pursuing it until we both feel like, yeah, that's it. So, what's the competency that's going to be the cornerstone of your success with your practice? What's the competency that you feel like you're most needing to strengthen or develop that will help bring you closer to God's perfection in the form of caring for your family?
I think a number of things. Firstly, being on time, and as you mentioned earlier, resting and caring for my body.
Okay.
And also during the day to be engaged in meaningful rather than maybe work that's not as important in the grand scheme, and developing my priorities.
Okay. So you might consider priorities, being on time, all those types of things, a grand competency called effectiveness, professional effectiveness. Does that ring true as to what might be a path towards God's perfection?
Yes.
Okay. Let's try it as an experiment. You can write that down. Professional effectiveness is the competency. And again, that's a huge topic. You could go into 16 or 36 different directions with that. And we can't, because that's too hard to learn 16 things at once. But so we want to figure out, okay, where's the first step in terms of your professional effectiveness? Now, you may have already said it, but when I ask you that question, what comes into your heart first? What's the first step if you're going to eat that elephant one bite at a time, or solve that puzzle one piece at a time? Better metaphor. What's the first step of your professional effectiveness?
Being well rested and being on time.
I guess the second half. Rested. Rested was the first half, and then the second.
And on time.
And on time.
On time.
Is there a connection between on time and rested or not rested?
Definitely can be. Not always, but can be.
Okay. So you might take those on one at a time and just be rested first, but you can connect them if you want and say, rest, the specifically defined focus could be something like rested enough to be on time.
Mm.
Now, that might be, how does that sound to you?
Like I would like that.
Okay, there we go. And why does this matter? It's important that we always ask, why are we doing this? What's this for again? Why does this matter to you?
well, I mean, to go back up was the professional effectiveness, and before that was to care for my family.
So, because I want to care for my family. So that's a huge priority for you. It's very important. And that's what you'll need to remember, that that's why you're doing this, because it will be easy to forget. It will be easy to stop using your log or making your notes every day. But if you write down professional effectiveness on one side of a piece of paper, on the left side, and then on the right side you write down being rested enough to be on time. That's what you're working on to start your journey to open your practice, and developing, your skills that you need to be successful with your professional practice. But it's also your path to God. Because if you're not successful, if you're not on time, if you're not very well rested, it's hard to be, close to the divine experience of the unconditional love and the inner peace, regardless of what's happening outside, and all the beautiful things that are spoken about and written about in the holy books. Does that seem to connect for you?
Sure.
Okay, so that's your experiment. Now, what I would say is that professional effectiveness may last. You may have that on the left side of your little log or your page in your notebook for 2 years. You might take 2 years to master all of that, to become really proficient at the whole piece that professional effectiveness will include. It's like a puzzle that'll take time to put together. But what will possibly change is you'll get better and better at being rested enough to being on time, that then you'll graduate to the next piece of that puzzle. And your heart will know what it is, just like your heart knew what this one was. And so the practice is now, start a little journal, get a little notebook, put it on a piece of paper, write it like I talked about on the top, and then every day, end of your day, write down the date, give yourself a 1 to 10 on how you did, write a little note, an insight about what you learned, what you became aware of, how you're going to improve. And what you'll find over time is the number 1 to 10 doesn't really matter much. It's just an arbitrary assessment of your day, that the days are going to come, the days are going to go. The assessments will come up, they'll go down. You'll have some 3s, you'll have some 8s, you'll have some 6s. They don't matter in the long run, but it's nice to have that so that you can say, why did I give myself a 3? Well, what did I learn about giving myself a 3? What was the lesson that I didn't have? Or, wow, I gave myself an 8.5 today. That's awesome. What did I do that worked? The themes, the notes will become more valuable, much more valuable than the numbers. And if you do this regularly, day after day after day, I totally trust that this will accelerate your walking, your deepening your heart, and your connection to Allah, to God, so that you can begin to manifest, what your heart is meant to manifest in terms of your professional effectiveness.
Thank you.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you. Thank you for being our volunteer. Now, Mr. It's 5 to 6. We probably have time for one more of those if we have another volunteer, or we can just go to general questions. I'll leave that to see what's in people's hearts.
Okay, so excuse me. If you have a question or would like to volunteer, press *2 on your phone, or you can type it in to the computer if you're on the webcast. And meanwhile, while we're waiting, I will read you this, I believe it's a comment that came in on the webcast, and I'll see if you just want to make a comment on it. It says, I have just, quote unquote, seen how I keep by my resistance to doing what God asks me to do. I will write the book you ask me to write when I have a relationship in my life. Then the readers will know I have healed myself. So I am dedicating this course to putting God first in my life. The underlying issue is trust. My young life has had a good deal of abandonment, neglect, and abuse, so trusting is hard for me.
So that was a comment from one of our participants on the call. And I'm wondering if does it sound like there's a question in there? I think it's more of it sounds like a declaration of what I'm going to do, what the person's going to do to move themselves closer to God. Is that right, or am I missing something?
That's what I believe too. That's what I believe too.
Okay. And what's the core positive that this beloved is trying to become? What, if you could nail it into one or two words, Master, what's the positive competence that he or she is, I guess it's a he, trying to strengthen or master?
I would say putting God first in my life and trusting.
Okay, so trusting God. Let's just say simple words, trusting God. Now, and how would that person start? It could be any number of ways. It could be in asking for guidance more often. It could be in following the guidance. It could be in slowing down and assessing, the level of trust, so you can, deepen it through more prayer. There's a lot of places to start, but it's the same practice. Every day, give yourself a 1 to 10 on how you're trusting God and doing your specifically defined focus. And every day, write yourself a note about what you learned, what you observed in yourself. And if you do this practice again and again, you'll start to see your awareness grow, your intentionality strengthen, and you'll capture the learnings, and you'll walk faster. You'll grow closer to God more quickly. Do we have another volunteer or any other questions about anything we've covered tonight?
Well, it's star 2 if you're on the phone, or type in on the webcast. And meanwhile, Hamid, I hit another level. Am I allowed to ask a question?
You're allowed. You're a human being on this call. Of course you're allowed.
Okay. You know how it is, how, we're like sailing along. And as Hamid said, we always have the opportunity to visit our issues and to polish our mirror, to continue to polish our mirror. And I'm by no means finished. But anyway, so I just hit another level of something that I've dealt with for a long time. And I tell you what, the person who said that, who we just read from, has typed in, it was actually a question. So I'm just going to say, while I'm asking my question, if you could rephrase that so we know specifically what the question is, and just put it into a question, then we'll come back to that.
That'd be great.
Okay. So, all right. So the thing that I'm hitting again is that I have to work harder and harder and harder and harder in order to, dealing with my worthiness issues.
Uh-huh.
And that's one I hit in my work life over and over again, rather than just like allowing myself to have abundance and ease. I have this, and I think it's common, but I have that, I have to, if I really want to have an income in my life that affords me to, to have ease in my life, I've got to work myself to the bone.
Okay.
So,
what's the core competency there, Master? I have a thought, but I want to hear what your thought is. What's the competency that you most long for?
Opening, it goes back to trusting the law, that opening and there's worthiness, there's being willing to receive, there's trusting Allah. Was receiving, is that the one that
I was going to land on worthiness or loving myself, if you want to change the words to loving yourself. Does that ring a bell? I mean, does that, it has to be your words.
Valuing myself.
Valuing myself.
Valuing myself.
Okay, yes. Worthiness or valuing myself, either one of those.
Mm-hmm.
That's your core competency. That's what you care about. That's what's going to be your walking towards God's, divine reality, divine presence. Now, what's the first piece of that puzzle? What's the piece that comes to you first to really focus in on so that you can actually eventually master loving yourself, your own worthiness, or valuing yourself. That's it. That's your word.
Yeah.
What's the first piece?
I mean, the first thing that comes up when it comes to work and income is that if I'm not working around the clock and pushing myself to my limits on a regular basis, then is God really going to take care of me?
Okay. So is the first piece to find more balance in your time off versus your time working?
Yeah, and for me, it has to do with money. It has to do with, it's kind of like I'm not going to have what I need to survive, and I'm going to end up homeless if I don't.
Okay.
If I'm not giving 24/7 to.
And does that seem actually true to you, or is that just what kind of a story that you are vulnerable to? Do you feel like you actually could end up homeless? Yeah, it's not real, right?
Well, I hope not.
Well, I mean, do you earn enough to pay your bills now?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the mindset?
And it's that, if I were to find a way to not kill myself in the working, would that still be true?
So you feel like there's a connection between overworking and survival?
Right.
Okay. So the competency is worthiness or valuing myself. The specifically defined focus could be something like allowing, let's see.
It's a deserving thing. The more that I sit with it, it's I don't deserve it.
Okay.
It's deserving.
Okay.
I'm constantly trying to prove somehow
get approval. Okay.
It's not getting approval. It's doing enough to actually earn it.
Okay.
Because I don't really deserve it.
Okay, so could the specifically defined focus be feeling deserving? Feeling deserving from quote unquote enough work as opposed to overwork.
Yes.
And you can give yourself a 1 to 10 on how you did that today. Am I feeling deserving with enough work, and did I push myself beyond what I felt was appropriate because of the lack of being deserving?
Okay.
So it's kind of a twofold: the deserving at the level of work that feels right. Feeling deserving at the level of work that feels right. That's a paraphrase. You can find your own phrase for that, but I think that's the idea. Good. Okay, and then after a while, I trust with your walking, your prayer about this, your insights to come from your watching yourself and trying to do better at that during the day. Again, remembering that Tuesday's practice for Wednesday. If you give yourself a low score on Tuesday, tomorrow's another game. Tomorrow's another day, and you start over, and you might do very well tomorrow. And the more you start to string some positive energy, together around this topic, the more you're going to be ready to look at the next piece of your puzzle about valuing yourself, being worthy.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's an experiment, and it's like keep track of your notes and see what themes you get, and see if you can't start to do better at taking care of yourself and trusting that you're going to be enough at a reasonable pace of work, as opposed to overdoing it because you don't think you're deserving. That's the switch.
Yeah.
This
is already starting to open the insights just from bringing it into this, pinpointing it into these, the focus and the competency.
Good.
Really well.
So just work with that. And again, the competency may last for quite a while, but the specifically defined focus, there may be many of those. They may come and go every 3 or 4 weeks, for that matter. So, or it doesn't matter. You don't worry about how long it's taking. You just stay with it until you go, you know what, I got that. Thank you. I'm really long. Thank you, God. Now what?
Yeah, awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank
you. Let's see if the gentleman that we asked to rephrase his comments into a question, if we can
yes,
do better at understanding it now. I'm going to put the phone down for a minute. So I got a stuffy nose. I'm going to try to blow it without into the phone.
Okay. Okay, so
okay, I'm back. I'm back.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the rephrase question is, how can I overcome my resistance to doing what God asks me to do and trust that He knows what is best for me and wants my happiness?
Okay. So the competency pretty clearly is trusting God, doing what God wants. Trusting or doing what God wants. That's the competency. And I would ask the beloved to see, where do I start? How do I start the process of strengthening my trust in God? It won't be on big, huge things. It should be on things that are, a little uncomfortable, but not outside of your range of trusting and experimenting. So a small thing to do is, I'll give you a small example and a big example, and obviously, we're not asking for a big example. So for me, trusting Allah, if I'm in traffic and I could go left or right and it's either way, that's going to be 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. If I just ask Allah, should I go left or right? I'll get an answer. And that sometimes works out and it sometimes doesn't, but I'm experimenting with trusting Allah. It's not about going left or right or saving my time in traffic. Well, of course I want to save time in traffic. But that's a very small risk. It might cost me 15 minutes going the wrong way. Okay. So no worries. Now, something that you trust in Allah that would be a bigger deal would be something like an investment or investing time in a relationship that you're not sure of, like somebody in business that you're not sure is going to be a good customer, a good provider, and there's more risk. So what I'm suggesting to the gentleman is the competency is trusting Allah, and find the small experiments that you can find to see if you can grow into that trust with things that are within your. It's not your comfort. It's a little bit beyond your comfort zone. It's in your stretch zone, but it's not in your panic zone, so to speak.
Okay.
That makes sense? Let him know. Ask him to give us a comment back if that helps, or if he has a further follow-up question, and then we'll see if there's anybody else that has something that they want to speak about while we're working with him through the written word.
Okay. Okay, so anyone on the phone have a question or want help with this, press *2. And *2 will raise your hand and I'll unmute you. Or if you're on the webcast, submit a question through the Q&A box at the bottom. Okay, so someone has submitted a comment that says, all Zakir in God's name, all Rich, all Mu'ni, all Jawad, all Kareem, all Razak, help bring sustenance and life. This, I believe, is the true trust in God. Thank you for that comment.
So there doesn't sound like there's any other vocal volunteers right now, and that's fine. Sometimes people learn quietly, and I can respect that.
Wait. Oh, I'm sorry. We have questions here.
Ah.
It's probably my dynamic update thing that takes a while to update here. So I'm unmuting Mary from Rochester.
Oh, Rochester, New York.
Yep. Mary, you're unmuted. Oh, whoops, Mary maybe just muted herself again, or maybe I did that. It's my dynamic update here. Let's see. Okay, Mary, try again.
Hi, actually, this is Ellen.
Hi, Ellen.
Okay.
Hi. My question is kind of similar to the last one, but one of the things I've been wanting to work on right now is how do I know what God wants me to do at all times?
Uh-huh.
And I was trying to figure out what the competence would be, and
yep.
I'm not sure if it's...
Yeah, the competency might be something like understanding my guidance or hearing my guidance.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, that's what you would put down on the left-hand side of your log or your paper. Hearing or understanding or hearing my guidance. And then how do you start on that? That's a big topic too. So these are all big competencies. What's the piece of the puzzle that you feel like would be valuable to start on a daily basis?
I don't know. How do I figure that out?
Well, what do you say if you had to master this whole thing of understanding your guidance? Where would you start? Where's the beginning of that for you?
I guess going into my heart.
Yeah. Do you spend time every day listening? Giving yourself time and remembrance every day to listen for guidance?
No, I feel like it's very difficult for me to focus on doing that for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Okay. So it's hard to spend time just sitting for in remembrance to see what your heart says.
Yeah.
How about do you ever, when you're going through your day, and do you ever ask your heart for guidance on simple little things like I shared about, driving this way or that way, or should I eat this or that, and some simple little thing that doesn't have a lot of risk, and that's you don't need to spend an hour in remembrance. You just need to kind of see what your heart says.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be a place to start?
Yeah.
So you could ask yourself at the end of the day, how often or how many times, or you don't have to count them, but I mean, did I give myself enough chances to listen to guidance today that it feels like I'm growing and learning, towards this trusting my guidance and understanding my guidance. And the first step is asking for guidance on simple topics.
Okay.
Is it time for me to, go to bed, or should I read some more? See what your heart says. Is it time?
Right.
Should I watch the television show? No. Okay, I won't. Okay.
Right.
The simple little things of life are raw material for you to strengthen your access to your guidance. If you do this more intentionally, more awareness, more intentionality, and then kind of watch yourself during the day. How am I doing on asking and hearing the guidance about all simple things? And as you graduate from the simple things, maybe you'll start to experiment with the more difficult, with things with a little more risk or more at stake.
Okay.
Does that sound helpful?
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Ellen. Now, I'm going to just read the comment from the person that we helped on the webcast, and then I'll go back to Patricia.
Okay.
Okay, so the comment is, thank you, that helps. I'm a female, and I have great trust in God for the most part. It is just about writing the book I'm asked to write and going into the world publicly and speaking.
Okay.
So thank you for that comment.
Okay.
Okay.
And somebody that has a hima or desire to write one of C.D.'s books. I think that's what you're talking about. Writing, transcribing one of C.D.'s books, or maybe you're writing your own book. Either one.
Yeah, it sounds to me like writing her own book.
Okay. Well, there might be. You could say, okay, trusting, God. I forget what the competency here is now. I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth. There's enough people that I've forgotten. But you could assess, did you give yourself a chance to write today? Did you even sit down and try it? Did you give yourself 5 minutes or 15 minutes or or 55 minutes. And you're just trying to give yourself this chance to get started. And then once you're started, then you can say, okay, I gave myself a chance to write a page or 3 pages. Pretty soon you'll be rolling. Would be my hope, my prayer, that this practice of trying something that's a little bit out of our comfort zone helps us get there faster by this, again, awareness and intention and insights that come to you when you see what happens when you go and what happens when you don't go. We've got maybe time for one more.
Okay. I do have another question, so I'm going to go. I believe this is Patricia?
Patricia, okay.
Patricia, unmute.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
So when I went into my heart, what does my heart long for?
Yeah.
I got a deeper connection with God.
Good.
Which is kind of like the core, because there's
Yeah.
a lot of other things.
Yeah.
And then when I went into the second part, which is whatever you called it, the quality, pardon?
The quality underneath that, yeah.
The quality underneath that was tapa, or forgiveness.
Okay.
So,
is it forgiveness for yourself or others or both?
I would say both.
Good. Okay.
And as I was sitting here thinking about this, it's like, how am I going to tackle this?
Okay.
I was thinking one of the things that would be, is it taba? Is it forgiveness? The Arabic word?
Tauba, yeah.
Yeah, taba. I think that's where I'm going to start.
Good. And so, your first competency was what? Closeness with God?
Yeah, deeper connection.
Deeper connection with God. That's beautiful. That's a great competency. That's a longing that is going to, carry you a long way towards God. Now, the first piece is practicing forgiveness or tauba for yourself and others.
Right.
And you can give yourself, like I said, a little 1 to 10 every day, and a little insight about what you noticed, and eventually, I will think you'll feel like this is coming, true. This is actually starting to manifest within you. You're getting closer to God, and the tauba is actually helping you, and you're remembering to do tauba more often as needed, and maybe you'll notice when you don't want to do tauba because you don't think they deserve it, or whatever. You'll have your own version of stuff. We all have our own version of that inner war. But whatever yours is, it'll come to light, and then you'll have more choice, and you can actually say, "Okay, I see that. I don't want to be that person. I want to be this person." Right. You'll have more choice.
Right. It's interesting. It was kind of like, there were so many other areas that was like self-care and professional, professional. But I just felt that since this was the root longing to start there.
Yeah.
And just to see how it spills out into other areas in my life.
Yep. I think that's admirable. That's a very empowering place to start.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Okay.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, so Hamid, any parting words or comments before we wrap up?
My prayer is that those who are on the call and or listen to the call will try this as an experiment for themselves. That's my prayer, because the experiment and the experience of it will hopefully illuminate the value of it, and then the value of it will become a self-reinforcing positive habit that helps people, walk closer to the divine presence. And that's what we're here for. That's what the university's here for, to help people experience, God's love and peace and mercy more intimately in themselves, so that they have more to share with those in their world that are also hungry for this experience of life. So that's my prayer. I ask for the experiments to help you be the person that God has made you to be.
Beautiful. Well, I can honestly say that this has been very helpful for my heart in sharing and receiving your guidance there. I can feel like my heart is already healing just from bringing that to light and taking this short time that we took to reflect on it today. So I'm looking forward to seeing what shifts in my life as a result. So I thank you for that. And so I will invite our listeners to please try this at home. This stuff. And with that, if you do have questions, we're about out of time here. We're needing to wrap up. But if you still have questions, or if you're listening to the recording and you have questions, I want to give you a website that you can go to, a web page, and it's sufiuniversity.org/info. So it's S as in Sam, U, F as in Frank, I, University, sufiuniversity.org/info, which is short for information. So it's INFO. And you'll see a few things on that page. Hamid mentioned remembrance. If you are interested in learning more about the remembrance practice, if this is something that you're not familiar with, there is a free e-class on that website. You can just press the button for the free e-class there and register for that. And it's a course that sends you exercises by email, and it also has a downloadable recording of the remembrance, and it has information on how to dial into a weekly live remembrance call where you can get your questions answered, help you to deepen your practice, and just connect with a group of people.
You're breaking up, Master, if you're still speaking.
Oh no, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so let's see, that was about the e-course. Did you catch enough about the e-course there? Do I need to repeat?
I think we heard that.
Okay, so the other thing, there are several things on this page, but so you see the free e-class. There's another button there that's to the right on that same row that says get your free spiritual growth consultation. And bottom line is what that will do is take you to a place where you can get a free consultation with one of our team members. And all of our team members have been on this path for a very long time, have walked very deeply. Everyone has been through the school and has been doing healing work for a very long time, many, many years. So these are people who can help you to get your questions answered and to get clear on what's moving in your heart and how to apply the teachings to whatever's moving for you in your life and help you to get that clarity in your heart around whatever you're feeling called to, as Hamid talked about, feeling that calling, that yearning in your heart. And so I encourage you, we have actually several people who are available to take your calls. We have Donna Jamila, we have Nora Preston, all available to take your calls if you sign up for a consultation here. And they're all healers and very insightful, compassionate beloveds. So again, if your questions did not get answered and you have any questions about what Hamid talked about tonight, what's moving in your heart, if you're feeling don't know what it is, or if you have questions about any of our programs, including the Masters of Divinity program, the enrollment period is open for that. And of course, if this is something that calls to you, if you haven't already been through that program, you are invited to talk to us about that. We'd love to talk to you about that and see if that's something that is in your future. So again, you can get to all of those things through sufiuniversity.org/info, INFO. And with that, Hamid.
Yeah, thank you, Master.